A Brief History of Modern Japan for Political Risk Analysts by Corey's Political Risk Analysis. World War I and Interwar Period 1914 to 1937. During World War I, Japan joined the Allies and took German holdings in China and the Pacific. This bolstered its imperial ambitions and elevated its international status. However, the post-war period saw internal challenges. The Taisho democracy era brought limited liberal reforms and parliamentary growth. Rising militarism and nationalism grew during the 1920s and 1930s, driven by economic hardships, notably after the 1929 Great Depression and dissatisfaction with Western powers. Japan invaded Manchuria in 1931 and later withdrew from the League of Nations in 1933, marking a shift toward aggressive imperial expansion. World War II and Imperial Collapse, 1937 to 1945. In 1937, Japan launched a full-scale invasion of China, triggering the Second Sino-Japanese War. In 1940, Japan joined the Axis powers, with Germany and Italy. On December 7, 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor, prompting the United States to enter the war. Japan's conquests across East and Southeast Asia were met with harsh resistance, and by 1945, the tide had turned. After devastating defeats and the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan surrendered on August 15, 1945. This ended the Empire of Japan, ushering in Allied occupation. U.S. occupation and post-war reconstruction, 1945 to 1952. Led by General Douglas MacArthur, the U.S.-led occupation implemented sweeping reforms. The 1947 Constitution renounced war, Article 9, and established a parliamentary democracy. Land reforms, labor rights, and women's suffrage were introduced. The Zaibatsu industrial conglomerates were partially dismantled. In 1951, Japan signed the San Francisco Peace Treaty and regained full sovereignty in 1952. Economic miracle and Cold War alignment, 1952 to 1989. From the 1950s to the 1980s, Japan experienced rapid economic growth, fueled by exports, tech innovation, and U.S. market access. Became the world's second largest economy by the 1980s. Hosted the 1964 Tokyo Olympics, showcasing its recovery. Politically, the Liberal Democratic Party, or the LDP, dominated from 1955 onward. Japan remained a key U.S. ally during the Cold War, but maintained a pacifist military stance under Article 9. In the 1980s, Japan's asset bubble, real estate, and stock markets grew dangerously inflated. The Lost Decades and Political Flux, from 1990 to 2010. The bubble burst in 1991, leading to a prolonged economic stagnation known as the Lost Decades. Banking crises, deflation, and sluggish growth persisted through the 1990s and 2000s. Political instability increased, with frequent changes in prime ministers. Relations with neighbors, China and South Korea, became strained over wartime history and territorial disputes. Despite economic woes, Japan remained a global tech leader and maintained a high standard of living. 2011 Triple Disaster and Abenomics, from 2011 to 2020. On March 11, 2011, a massive earthquake and tsunami struck northeastern Japan, triggering the Fukushima nuclear disaster, a major blow to nuclear energy and public trust. In 2012, Shinzo Abe returned as prime minister, introducing Abenomics, a three-pronged policy of monetary easing, fiscal stimulus, and structural reform. A push to reinterpret Article 9 and expand Japan's defense capabilities. Greater diplomatic outreach in Southeast Asia and with Western allies. Japan's population began shrinking, with aging demographics becoming a top concern. COVID-19, post-Abe leadership, and contemporary challenges from 2020 to 2025. The COVID pandemic led to border closures, a delayed Tokyo 2020 Olympics, and economic contraction. Abe resigned in 2020. Successors Yoshihide Suga and then Fumio Kishida struggled with approval ratings and policy continuity. Japan gradually reopened, pursued digital transformation, and confronted labor shortages. In 2024, Shigeru Ishiba led the LDP into elections but lost the lower house majority, resulting in a minority government by 2025. The rise of opposition parties, like the Constitutional Democratic Party, marked a shift in domestic politics. Economically, Japan in 2025 faced weak GDP growth, high public debt, over 260% of GDP, trade pressures, especially from US tariffs. Internationally, Japan balanced relations with the US and expanded its regional and global role, including military modernization under growing security threats. Conclusion: from a rising imperial power in the early 20th century to a pacifist, democratic, high-tech society navigating 21st century challenges, Japan's history from World War I to 2025 is a story of dramatic transformation. It continues to face complex demographic, economic, and geopolitical issues, but remains a key player on the global stage.